His skin is white just like a ghost, thick Irish roots and his blonde hair. And he sounds like a Chicago superfan, a music nerd with a collection of CDs from here to there. Yes, Andy Dare is in Chicago, interviewing and barbecuing. It's the Andy Dare Show. It's the Andy Dare Show.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. Here we are, episode 86. I am joined by Shelley Howard, celebrating 40 years in the graphic arts game. And yeah, he's having a party this coming Thursday at Rocket Bar, celebrating 40 years in the game, showing a bunch of his pieces on a big screen monitor. It'll be a real cool time. Yeah, he's super nice, funny, intelligent guy. It was a great discussion, and looks like we'll be working with him more in the future, maybe doing a video interview, you know, with the artwork involved more. But so far, with just a call, this was a great episode. Learned a lot about his life. And yeah, he's been through a lot, and he's coming out swinging, and it's a great chat. But before we get into that, I'd like to bring up my awesome sponsors. First up, we have Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue, located in Westmont, Illinois. Family-run and operated since 1997. They are the real deal barbecue. Smokers hooked up to the back of the building, constantly pumping out that delicious hickory smoked barbecue. And what people don't also know about them is that they are a full-service catering company. They'll come out to the wedding, the pig roast, the luau, the corporate picnic, whatever you want. They have grills, they have smokers, they have friendly staffs willing to make sure that your party goes off without a hitch. Owner Mark Link is going around the country participating in a bunch of different cook-offs this summer. And yes, it's a great time. Check out Uncle Bub's on the web. That's UncleBubs.com. If you're in the area, give them a call, 630-493-9000. And yeah, it's Westmont, Illinois, 132 South Cass Avenue, located pretty much near all the major highways if you're coming from the city or if you're coming from out in the sticks. So that is Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue. And by Record Utopia. If you are any fan of the show, you know I grew up in a record store. Remember When Records? For 28 years I was going there, and recently the owner retired, sold out his inventory to a secondhand mall, which was co-owned by Dan Swanson, who was an earlier guest about a month ago. And so now one of Hank, who owned Remember When Records, one of his guys has now taken it over, rechristened it as Record Utopia, and it's got a humongous vinyl selection, bunch of CDs, bunch of vintage musical gear too, which is awesome. Keyboards, guitars, drums. And yeah, they buy, sell, trade. Check it out. Also in Westmont, Illinois, keeping my sponsors local. That's 309 West Ogden Avenue. Give them a call. They buy, sell, and trade. That's 630-810-9980. And on the web at secondhandmall.com, 2ndhandmall.com. And by Amazon.com. Yes, now we are an Amazon affiliate. All you got to do is go to theandydareshow.com. Click on the banner on the right-hand side of the page. It'll take you to Amazon. You spend $0 extra, $0 extra cents, and you get to tip your hat to the Andy Dare Show, our little creative endeavor for almost 3 years now. And so that is how you can help us whet our beak. So that about does it for the sponsors this week. Just want to give a heartfelt thank you to the Man Great, who's also stayed a sponsor. Father's Day is coming up. Why don't you get him something that is substantial, something that, you know, he can you can help cook for the whole family. It's the Man Great. Check them out. They also have a banner on the AndyDareShow.com. Thanks for everybody who's supported. It means a lot to us, so we can keep bringing you this good content. Yeah, what's basically going on in the world of Andy this coming week is I'm pretty much helping build out a studio in Westmont, Illinois. We've called it Venue Without a Venue. Had some really cool people attached to this project. I'm going to keep it hush-hush for now. It's going to be a multiple camera, multiple microphone, actual studio. You know, this show I've basically been doing it out of my house for 3 years, but now I'm going to be moving into an actual studio. It feels good. I'm going to also be trying to learn about some of the gear and the computers. It's something that I need a lot of work on, so I think this will help me, get behind the gear and actually try to start engineering other shows, engineering mine. And it's going to be a fun time. It's located in Westmont, keeping my life local pretty much. But just want to thank everybody who supported my show these last 3 years. And without further ado, my episode 86 with special guest Shelley Howard. Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 86. I am joined via phone by Shelley Howard, graphic designer extraordinaire. How you doing, Shelley?
I'm doing darn good today, Andy.
Awesome, and you are celebrating 40 years in the business with a big party at Rocket Bar and Grill next Thursday, May 30th, right?
Correct. 40 long years, and what a long, strange trip it's been.
That's so awesome. The last couple of weeks we just been going through your work. There's so much there. There's so much volume. It could take hours just to crack the surface. Are you going to be having a lot of your work out to show on May 30th at Rocket Bar?
Well, Rocket is one of those sports bars that's got the huge screen. So the entirety of the show is just going to be on the screens from the digital files that I've made. Really not much exists in hard form. There's like tear sheets from newspapers and a poster here or there, but the last few months I've just spent restoring some of these pieces, and believe me, some of them were in pretty bad shape. So bringing them up to 2013 standards.
Sure. Well, that's got to be easier, just having it on a screen. That way you could put, 100 different of the pieces up and not really have to worry about dragging them in, taking them out, making sure people aren't leaning on them and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking like a fine art exhibit for what you have, and for what it's worth, I have recently disposed of a lot of my fine art pieces because they were big and they were taking up room, and just trying to scale down a little bit. But, you mentioned the number 100 pieces. Right now I've got between 350 and 400 pieces, which is really a very small sampling of the 40 to 50,000 pieces I've done.
Jeez.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'd like to take it back to my listeners. How about your family structure growing up, and where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in the great municipality of Melrose Park on the west side. So anybody familiar with that knows that you grow up being a greaser, especially in the 60s.
So the hippie movement hadn't really struck yet. It was still greasers, right?
No. I mean, if you want to dig there, the 60s were just the most fascinating time of change. And when I left the area in '65 to go off to NIU, basically the Beatles had hit the year earlier, and people were just starting to grow their hair long, and I was in a rock and roll band, so it did take me long from leaving Greaser's Palace in Melrose Park to get to school to realize that, I need to grow my hair even longer.
You start throwing out your pomade and, getting the comb out.
Yeah, exactly. I threw away the Brill cream and went just for, let your long hair flow.
Nice.
Let your freak flag fly, as I think David Crosby said.
Awesome.
And then, it was a transition, 66, 67, just moving into, the summer love and flowered shirts and Beatle boots and all that other stuff. And from there was a short jump into Revolution and Street Fighting Man, 68.
Really cool. How about early pop art that moved you at an early age, maybe change your mind, maybe I could do this?
Well, it was, I had influences growing up. I always loved Warhol, even as a kid. I loved Rauschenberg. I loved the idea of collages. And, I always loved Hugh Hefner and Naked Women. So, I'll be perfectly honest with you. When I got into painting and everything, it was just kind of an excuse to get girls to get naked so I could paint them.
Smart, sly. I like
Yeah,
that.
it was very, very smart. I still use that line today.
That's awesome. How about like a first concert you attended where your mind was open? You started tuning in.
Well, gosh, the first bands that I saw were, proto hippie bands, or I mean, I saw Beach Boys and Dave Clark 5 and Rolling Stones in '64 on their first tour, and all the bands from that era, Kinks and Zombies and that sort of stuff. But I mean, it was a whole different time. Then, of course, as the '60s moved on, then I started getting pumped into the Dead and Jefferson Airplane and Country Joe and the Fish and all of those sort of bands. So we moved along with that as well.
Sure, were those posters obviously a big influence? I mean, so I'm reading a Grateful Dead book now that Stanley Mouse and a couple of those other guys who did those posters.
Yeah. I mean, the whole art of Bill Graham and the Fillmore era was, center core influence. In fact, I probably have one of the more extensive collection of Fillmore posters. When I was out in San Francisco in the early '70s, Bill Graham had a little shop down in North Beach, and I bought probably 120 posters for $3 or $4 each.
Nice.
And now I'm sitting on Stanley Mouse, Jimi Hendrix posters that are worth $2,000.
See, it pays to buy, early.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly the rock art of the '60s was a main influence, but then again. This a lot of this stuff was kind of very Warhol in nature, very just bold imagery, and not a lot of texture and everything. It was very, very solid imagery, and then let's face it, LSD helped take me breaking through to the other side.
Sure.
Not that I would recommend LSD for anyone of this generation, but back then it was the time.
Yeah, I could totally understand that. And it seems like, for me, like they were just making something that you would see from across the room and be drawn toward, just put as much color, as much stuff going on one piece of paper.
Exactly. It was almost all of the Fillmore art was just very bold, bright imagery. If you look at it, I mean, there's obviously the psychedelic swirls and everything that were, kind of Art Nouveau influence, but most of it just had to do with taking solid forms, dropping acid, and watching them change, and then trying to capture what they were. I mean, that's what '60s art was all about, and that's what my art was all about.
Sure. How about what kind of student were you? Were you obviously good at the art or with the arts, or was it hard to keep you focused when all this stuff is going on?
Oh no. I was a fanatic about getting my work done. In fact, the funny thing is that, I did a very huge outpouring of painting, hundreds of paintings and drawings and silk screens and lithographs and etchings and everything. And, when I got out of school in '69, they were all stored in my parents' house, and I just kind of like wrote it all off to that era. And my mother passed away recently, and we had to sell the house. So I got back there, and I inherited all the paintings. And all of a sudden, I'm realizing, like, wow, this is an outpouring of stuff. What am I going to do with it?
Sure.
And some of these pieces were like 5 feet by 6 feet. They were like huge paintings. So even today, I'm giving them away, because what am I going to do with them? I've got 40,000 pieces of graphic art that I can't find a file for. What am I going to do with these paintings? Yeah. So I'm giving them away. I'm giving people some joy. But the fact of the matter is, as I look at these and I realize what a huge outpouring of stuff it was, I cannot for the life of me picture the amount of time that it must have taken me to do this stuff. And surely I did it,
Yeah.
I did not goof off. I was very, very diligent about producing these things. In fact, the work ethic that I developed in college probably has a great deal to do with the work ethic that I have now, which is just simply work all the time, and everything else takes a second chair.
That fits right into this next question. Like, it seems like you have quite a motor. What keeps you creating? Is it just to keep finding something new to inspire, or you keep moving and moving?
Right? That's a good question. Once you start creating, you can't stop. Mm-hmm. It's once those doors get opened up, and the floods come rushing in, and there's no amount of sandbags that can keep the floods out. At a very early age, I just simply kind of, there's a Neil Young song that goes, when the change came and you had a chance to see through me, and though the other side is just the same, we're only what we feel. And, there is just physical boundaries of things. Here's your shape, here's your size, and this is what it is. But the creative person doesn't see physical boundaries. He sees a blank canvas, and it changes. It swirls. It reclines. It changes colors. And that's what I see all the time. I never look at anything as being solid and real. I always look at it as something that is evolving and changing.
That's awesome.
I will sit down every single day and I'll look at a blank Photoshop page, and all of a sudden it just starts taking color and form and shape, and it develops, and then it's done.
That's really awesome.
It's a very interesting question about the creative process. I just don't know any other way, and that kind of applies to everything else in life. Conversation and language and dealing with people. Everything becomes, a creative experience, a way to enrich yourself, a way to enrich your conversation.
Sure. Is it also a fear of stagnancy? Like when you left school in '69, did you get worried that, whoa, that might be the last artwork I did or something like that? And you get scared, so you keep working and working.
Another interesting question. And that was kind of a life-changing sort of situation. And I'm sure everybody today has a similar situation. I mean, you're in school, you're in a creative academic environment. Everybody around you is smart. They're there for a reason, and you have a freedom. You're away from your parents' house for the first time, and you're doing this and you're doing that. And now you're out of school and you're back into the real world. Well, what do you do to keep that vibe going? And for me, my first job when I got out of school was teaching art in high school. And I moved to Chicago Heights, which is pretty much the end of the world. It's that scene you see where the waterfalls and the dragons are. It's the end of the world. And I got out there, and I didn't know anybody, and and it was just kind of, oh my God, what am I going to do? Other than getting in my car and driving up to NIU and hanging out with the lifers up there.
Sure.
Well, I went, why don't I open up a head shop?
Nice.
Okay. Just serious. This is 1969. I don't know where this came from. I walked, there was the first head shops were starting to pop up at the time. And for those of our younger listeners who don't know what head shops are, they were places that sold, smoking paraphernalia and posters and bell bottoms and tank tops and T-shirts.
Sure, yeah.
As well as underground newspapers and things like that. They were kind of counterculture places. So Chicago Heights, I'm going to open up a head shop. I bet you I could meet a bunch of whoever cool down here, I'm going to meet them. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I did. So to make a long story short, opening up the head shop, which I went into partners with an old friend of mine who was just graduating from NIU, and he was a business major, so he brought that skill. And I was the art guy, so I was the guy who just started making the murals on the wall and designing the interiors and making the ads for the store, which were kind of, hippie, Zap Comics, R. Crumb sort of things.
Cool.
And that kind of mutated into more fashion-oriented things. So, I'm coming to the city, I'm meeting fashion photographers, and I'm starting to do the stuff for the stores. Well, these things were pretty good. And other stores, contemporary boutiques of the era, said, hey, why don't you start doing stuff for us? So I did. And, it was kind of like one thing led to another. Pretty soon it was like, why should I be confined to a store when I could, move to the city and make all these great ads for all these great shops and everything? Why don't we do that? You're in your 20s. You don't have oh no, I need to be studious. No, you just go and you do. This is what you do when you're in your 20s.
Sure, just make friends, make clients, and just work around, right?
Yeah. So God, what a wonderful time those early 70s were. I would go around to shops and show them the stuff and talk them into doing two-page spreads in Playboy and flyers and stage fashion shows, and we tied in all the local rock bands at the time. There was Cracker and Pez Band and MS Funk, and all these bands were prototypes of other bands from the era. So I'd been doing it for about a year, and ran into the guys from Jam Productions, Arnie Grant and Jerry Michelson, sat next to them in the first row of an Eric Clapton concert.
Nice.
At the International Amphitheater in 1974. And, they knew who I was and I knew who they were. And we just started talking, hey, why don't we start doing stuff together? We had a meeting and decided to make a magazine. So
that's awesome.
Just on the spot, we invented a magazine, and it was called Jam the Concert Book. And, found
That's
a printer,
history.
started publishing, formed a distribution system, got salesmen, and here I am, 26 years old, and I'm the editor and publisher of a magazine.
That's awesome.
And
You probably
said,
would have never guessed that 5 years earlier, right?
Yeah, no. How would I have possibly known it? I was teaching art in high school 5 years earlier.
That is really cool. It seems really natural how the progression worked with that. How about your first memories with Joe Shanahan and the Metro back in the early '80s? You've been doing the Jam production stuff for a while at that point, right?
Yeah. Okay, Joe Shanahan, file under, How I Met Joe. This would be about 1979, 1980, and this was the start of my DJ thing, which is another subject altogether. Anyway, Joe, the very young Joe Shanahan, was DJing. And he was DJing in a club called La Relais on Oak Street, and this club was, it was for all the hips, the new wave fashion sort of magnets and everything. And I was just starting to do my video show. Okay, well, this is a whole subject altogether. I don't know if we were planning on talking to that, but we might as well.
Sure.
In the early 80s, I was the first kid on the block with a VCR and started taping the music shows, and then got my second VCR and started making compilations, and then started having parties. And, well, the people who came to parties were all the music industry people. And they said, well, hell, this is pretty darn entertaining. Why don't we start doing this in our clubs? So I literally started spinning videos, rock videos, and DJing at Park West in 1980 for 1,000 people a night. And it was just out of nowhere.
And that was called Shelley Vision, correct?
That was called Video Dance Stand.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
And then one of the grunts there said, yeah, we're having Shelley Vision again tonight.
Nice.
And I went, that's a good name. Why don't we take that? So I literally stole Shelley Vision. It was Video Dance Dan. Anyway, in 1982, I got a gig playing the Aragon with the B-52s. 5,000 people.
Awesome.
I needed a DJ. Who am I going to call? Yeah, Joe Shanahan. He's a good DJ.
Sure.
So Joe became my first DJ. And, 6 months later, he opened up the Smart Bar, and 6 months after that, he opened up Metro, and the rest is history.
Definitely.
Anyway, I did Video Dance then at Park West for 4 years, 80 to 84. And then the guys at Park West got greedy and said, "Oh, we don't need you. We can do this by ourselves." And I said, "Well, I don't need you. I can go to Metro and do this."
Sure. Yeah, it works both ways.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So Joe and I started Video Metro in early '84, and that continued on for 4 or 5 years. And Joe is just one of these all knowledgeable gurus of music in the city, and we've always had a very close and amicable working relationship.
Really cool. Were they images? Were they like psychedelic stuff? Was it music videos? Like this was.
It was a combination. It started out being straight ahead, proto MTV, Duran Duran music video sort of stuff. But then, I just started doing my own custom remixes. I got 3/4 editing gear, and would take a 7-minute New Order song and cut my own imagery over it. I remember some of the things I did. It was an extended remix of Prince's Controversy.
Nice.
And I just took documentary footage of attacks and civil disobedience and put it over there and made my own video remixes. And then we started getting a guy named Jerry Bryant, who runs JBTV.
Sure.
Yeah. And Jerry was always kind of like had very wacky psychedelic sort of stuff. So we would get ambient footage from him, and the DJs would spin the music, and we had 3 giant screens and about 20 monitors, and the ability to mix and match over these things. So it was pretty heavy psychedelic, fascinating stuff, which people don't even do anymore today.
No.
It's sad that people don't do this anymore. But for that time period of 1980 to about 1987 or 88, we did some pretty advanced stuff, and people remember it. People remember it to this day. It was some good stuff.
Yeah, and it's not a thing of clicking a mouse and dragging. Were you splicing stuff? Wasn't it pretty difficult to actually make your own music video? I mean...
Well, you had 2 very large 3/4 editing decks and a console in between. And it would be let's take 5 seconds of this and let's cut it into 10 seconds of this. It was very manual at the time, But when you think about how a lot of these video editing programs work today on today's computers, it's pretty much the basic same thing, only it was far more manual and far more clunky.
Sure.
In fact, everything. I made video before there was, iPhoto and iMovie. I made graphic arts before there was Photoshop.
Sure.
Everything that I did was manual and by hand and very, very time-consuming and took a great deal of focus and patience. And I think that's why I'm able to, do stuff on the computers today, because I had that background.
Sure. You think like nowadays with the whole like social media thing, everybody can. I think that's one good thing that we have now with computers and everything like that, because it makes me be able to be in touch with somebody like you. We haven't met, but I just appreciate your work, and
Thank you very much.
And I just love how you post something every day, and in anticipation for this show on next Thursday, and it's always cool though. I'm always clicking through, I'm always liking the stuff, and
Appreciate that.
then I spread the word to my listeners. I spread the word to people who look on my thing. So I think that's the silver lining in this new technological era.
Yeah, well, Facebook is a wonderful tool. It's allowed me to, well, I started my website, which in a lot of sense is a prototype of Facebook back in 2000. And if you look at the way my photo albums are set up, Facebook photo albums are set up the same way.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that Zucker stole from me, but Zucker stole from me.
Who knows? Yeah. He's looking over your shoulder.
Who knows? I mean, that stuff was going out there today, but it wasn't quite as instantaneous and it wasn't quite as fluid. I still have to kind of manually put the pictures into my website, and it's a pain when Facebook is so much more fluid like that. But what it does do is that it just allows thousands of people like you to get turned on to some of this stuff. And personally speaking, it's allowed me to develop my writing.
Cool.
Which has always been something I never was able to do, or I never had the vehicle to do it. I'd write copy and I'd write stories and I do things like that. But now, the thing that is just as important to me is my art, is my writing.
Sure. Now you have an instant audience built in, which is nice.
Right. I could say I picked my nose, and people just go, "Oh, wow, you picked your nose."
Ask you a question.
And this is me answering my door.
Hey man, I know you like grilling. I know you like getting those dark grill marks on your burgers, fish, chicken. And I know you don't want to just dry your meat out like you're cooking with a hairdryer. Why not get the Man Grate and click through the AndyDareShow.com's banner so we can keep the lights on here at Honeycomb Hideout Studios in gorgeous Westmont, Illinois. The Man Grate.
I just got one more thing. I just want to thank Shelley Howard for taking the time out. I do another show which is with webcams and with visuals, so I'm thinking maybe we'll get you on there and we'll be able to go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, I'd love for you to be able to come out here because this place is a museum.
Nice.
All the stuff is on my walls and everything, and and you could see my work environment, which is pretty sick with my computers and my screens and toys and stuff. But we could do this. Now, is this conversation, is this going to be broadcast at a later time?
Yeah, this will be out on Saturday. I'm going to just edit it up, put a little intro on there, and it's just going to be an audio thing. But, eventually we'll have to make it an afternoon and come down with a camera and a mic and, just do an in-person thing.
Well, you know where to get hold of me. Shoot me a link, and I'll shoot it out to my friends. I'd like to have them turn in and listen to this.
Awesome.
This has been a nice little trip down memory lane. I think we just touched the surface on this, but appreciate your attention.
Awesome. So if my listeners want to find out more, check out shelleyvision.net, SHELLEYVISION.net. And he's
very
on
important
Facebook.
To spell it correctly. Yeah. Very important to spell it correctly.
Definitely. He's on Facebook. He's on all the good stuff. Check it out. And he's going to be having a big party next Thursday, May 30th at Rocket Bar and Grill, 22 West Hubbard in Chicago, right?
Exactly.
Awesome.
All right, listen, Andy, I really appreciate this, and I would very much enjoy the chance to talk more. If you could find a way to come down here with your cameras and everything. Like I said, this place is. I'd like to say museum. Sometimes it's a mausoleum, but there's all those Fillmore things are up here, and 70, 80 examples of my work are all over the wall. So just so we can go on through and take this further.
Awesome. Sounds like a blast. Yeah. On behalf of Shelley, This is Andy Dare signing off for the Andy Dare Show.
Be sure to follow Andy on Twitter. That's at Andy Dare. And like our show on Facebook. That's facebook.com/The Andy Dare Show. Videos at youtube.com/Andrew Martin Dare. And we're on iTunes. Just search The Andy Dare Show. Please leave a review. Thanks so much to our wonderful sponsors, Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue, Record Utopia, The Band Great, and Amazon.com. Theme song courtesy of Rich Banks Music. Thank you so much for checking out The Andy Dare Show. TheAndyDareShow.com.